Hello and welcome. In this video, I'll be talking about what a layout is and explain some ground rules for designing your layout. In wireframing, it is important to determine what elements you want to show on the different pages. For example, you want a menu, some buttons, a piece of text and a footer. How and where you arrange these elements on your page is called your layout. Creating the layout is the first step of actual wireframing and a really important one as well. Because no matter how good a design appears to be, if it does not look good to the viewer, it will be unsuccessful. An effective layout not only looks attractive, but also helps the viewer understand the message the design is telling you. In other words, understanding your layout is key when it comes to creating a user-friendly and engaging design. A layout is connected to the important principles of graphic design, such as color, contrast, and typography. But the main principles of creating an effective layout are hierarchy, balance, alignment, proximity, and space. So let's take a look at these elements in more detail so we can have a better understanding of how each contributes to a better layout design. In design, hierarchy refers to the order of importance of elements in a layout. One way to create hierarchy is through size. In general, the largest element in the design is the most important, followed by the second largest, and so on. The reason larger elements are more important is because they're the first drawn to the eye. Another way to create hierarchy in a design without manipulating size is through contrast. Elements with a higher contrast stand out among lower contrast elements. And a third way to create hierarchy is through positioning of elements. An element that stands alone draws more attention than a group of elements, even if they're all the same size or contrast level. Balance is instinctively appealing to the human eye. Therefore, it makes sense to create balance in your design. A balanced layout incorporates either symmetry, asymmetry, or radial symmetry. Symmetrical and asymmetrical balance are the most common in design and the easiest to achieve. Radial symmetry can work well in the print, but is harder to pull off on a website. Effective alignment contributes to the flow of a layout. Using grids makes it easier to determine how to align elements in a layout. And there are two types of alignment in design: edge alignment and center alignment. Edge alignment is when elements are aligned to the top, bottom, left or right edge of a layout. Left alignment is typically used for text because a big part of the world reads text from left to right. Where center alignment is effective for smaller sections such as a title, an intro, images, icons, and other visuals. Proximity refers to the elements that are positioned together, and it's important to use these effectively because it informs the viewer which elements are related to one another. Unrelated elements should be spaced apart in order to avoid causing confusion. An example would be if you would have 3 circular areas and 1 square area. If you would put the 4 areas together, it might seem off balance, or one might think that the square area is more important than the 3 circular areas. If you would put the 3 circular areas together and the square area apart, this would generate a more balanced feeling in proximity. Space is important in layout because it helps separate and organize different elements. In a grid, space typically fills the gaps between columns, but space can also draw attention to elements that it surrounds. When creating a layout, it's essential that different elements have enough breathing room in order to avoid overwhelming the viewer with too many competing elements. In graphic design, layouts may contain a number of different elements. These are the most common design elements that contribute to a layout. Text. Text elements include titles, headings, and paragraphs. In text-heavy designs, these elements should be laid out in an intuitive way so that it's easy to read. Images, such as photographs and other visuals, help to break up text and send certain messages. Use these as a great way of engaging viewers through emotion. Lines are used to divide sections. They can also add emphasis to a text. Shapes, when used well, add a touch of flair and personality to a layout. Rectangles and circles are the most common, but there are many ways to get creative with shapes. And white space. As we discussed, adding space between sections of a layout prevent the user from getting overwhelmed when viewing a busy design. The format and context of a design determine how these elements are implemented in a layout. For instance, websites are typically text and image heavy, and in contrast, advertisements are primarily image focused with a minimum amount of text. Use these items well and create a layout that is intuitive and easy to read for your customers.